Attention on the fairgrounds. We will be starting the FFA beef show in about 2 minutes with the national anthem. 2 minutes till the national anthem, then we will be starting with the feeder calf show with Class 1 of the feeder heifers.
Check, check.
This is good right here. It's just too bad we can't put it in outside.
We'd like to welcome you to the Sioux Center FFA Beef Open Show. We will be starting our show with the singing of the national anthem. Singing the anthem will be Aubrey Van Griesen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We will now be starting the show. Our first class that will be entering the ring will be our feeder heifer class. We would like to welcome our judge today. Our judge is John Fortin. He is a fourth-generation cattleman and hails from Ree Heights, South Dakota. He earned his Animal Science BS in 2018 from Iowa State University. John was a member of the competitive Iowa State Livestock Judging Team, where he won the 2017 Champion Carload Judging Competition of the National Western Stock Show in Denver, Colorado. He is passionate about youth, cattle, breeding, and production. He currently works at the famed Raymond Ranch. In addition, he runs a small set of cows focusing primarily on Main-Angus breeding stock and show steer production. Let's welcome him to the FFA Open Beef Show. In the ring now, we have Ashlyn Sprock from George, Iowa, Callie Motter from George, Braylee Claveringa from Alton, and Reed Baker from Sanborn.
Well, good morning, everyone. On the drive down this morning, I was thinking I was going to open the show up and kind of reverted back to my 4-H public speaking competitions and the cliche, always start with something that's going to get everyone's attention. So I thought we'd start by discussing this presidential election we got coming up, because people seem to get pretty fired up about that. Unfortunately, my better half talked me out of it, and I decided instead to vocalize a very sincere thank you to the staff and the people putting this show on, and all the parents and exhibitors ringside for having me back for a second year. It's always a highlight of my summer, winter, fall, wherever it is that I get to sort through a set of cattle, interact with the youth. You know, there's not a lot of better ways to spend a day, in my opinion. With that being said, it's hot out. We're going to try to keep it moving while still giving everyone a fair shake and as we get into these feeder calf heifers, always an interesting class dynamic that goes with these. We have so many different types and kinds. And you know, for me, the one that starts off maybe does so just off of her silhouette and staying elevated in her front end. None of these things are really showing the best today. It's hot, they're uncomfortable. It's probably one of their first times out. But I thought this heifer is just completeness and overall look and silhouette from the side was one that maybe just allowed her to start the class fairly readily. Maybe like to just relax her in her lower joints a tick, but again, probably has something more to do with being a little uncomfortable and getting out and showing. The Charolais appearing heifer, I would say safe to assume she's a purebred, you know, has some very unique pieces for being one of those. You want to talk about one that has the big heavy duty set of feet and legs, has some stoutness. You know, again, maybe not presenting herself the best here today, but we're darn sure looking through that and trying to dive through that. I think that's a really nice Charolais heifer calf that goes second. The heifer in third was one I thought maybe I struggled with where to put her. She's easily the greenest out here, maybe a little more youthful and maybe not as advanced just in terms of her muscle pattern. I'd like to just stouten her up a shot, but one that when she gets out and goes has flex off of both ends, and you darn sure better appreciate that. And the young lady who rounds out the class absolutely has one with some stoutness, some muscle. I'll talk muscle and females all day long because I think it's a very overlooked entity in today's show ring world, and that's where I appreciate that one. Maybe runs downhill just a tick. We'd like to elevate her, get her a little bit better looking, and maybe we could work her up a little more, but a nice spot to start the show.
In our first class of feeder heifers, first place went to Reed Baker, second, Callie Mauder, third, Braylee Claveringa, and fourth, Ashlyn Sprock. Entering the ring now will be our second class of feeder heifers, Wyatt Peters, Anderson Sprock, and McKenna Claveringa. For those of you who would like to view the show afterwards, it will be on it is being live streamed right now on the Sioux County Youth Fair YouTube page. So if you have friends and neighbors that couldn't make it or didn't want to come out in the heat, you can send them a message. The Sioux County Youth Fair YouTube page. Well, we step it up a little bit in this class and find one to start off that
that I think is awfully, awfully nice. You talk about one that meets the ground with a big square foot, awesome toe spread up front, has checks all the boxes for being a female this age, and I think she's very appropriate in terms of her composition. And wow, you get off of that one, and that's a good-looking baldy that hits you extremely hard from the side. I like that one a lot and set her in motion, and there's no disappointment there just in terms of how she uses her joints and gets out and goes. The young man who comes in second, you're sitting behind a very good one, but I don't think the drop-off in quality is very big at all, because this is another one that is so attractive through a front 1/3 tie so high. That's something that's really hard to do consistently when you're trying to make these things. And, for one being that kind of rope-necked and good-looking up front, she still draws back into an awesome center of body. Maybe just not quite as big and burly, and doesn't have the heavy-duty set of running gear as a heifer in front of her, but a lot to appreciate there. Young man, you landed in an awfully tough class, but I'm not going to discredit this heifer. She might be just a little less fresh in her hair coat, but looking by that is a very productive, very good kind of cattle. The length of body maybe makes that one appear that she's a little shallow or middled, but I actually don't think that is the case. It's hard to discredit one that has that kind of length of spine and overall performance at this age. A very nice trio of heifers to come in this class 2 of our feeder calf heifer show.
In our second class of feeder heifers, first place went to McKenna Claveringa, second Wyatt Peters, and third Anderson Sprock. Entering the ring now will be our first and second place winner from the first class to join our second class, and we will be choosing the champion and reserve champion feeder heifers. Attention on the fairgrounds. First call for our Class 3 feeder steers. First call for Class 3 feeder steers.
Well, as I stated, when we start these feeder calf heifer shows, or feeder calf shows in general, there's a lot of spread, there's a lot of variation that you're going to see, and it just lands on me to find the ones that I like and kind of sort through that diversity. And for me, the Baldy heifer is a clear champion feeder heifer today. Awesome place to start the show. I think that young lady has a pile of future in that calf in the future. And not to discredit the calves that come out of the first class, but I'm going to go ahead and follow the young man in second there as reserve feeder calf heifer. Another one that I think pairs up very, very well with our champion today.
Exhibiting our champion feeder heifer was McKenna Claveringa with the Class 2 winner. Our reserve champion came from the same class and was Wyatt Peters. Entering the ring now is our third class. We will have our first class of feeder steers. We will be having Ryden Claveringa and Jacob DeBerg. Attention on the fairground. First call for the second class of feeder steers. First call for the second class of feeder steers.
You know, as we start into the progress or feeder steer side of things, again, the diversity and differences continue. First and foremost, we're looking for these things to turn into fat steers, to be highly feedable, projecting them down the road. I think it's one of the funner, you know, that prospect progress feeder calf stage is a fun one to evaluate. And really pertains to kids going out and finding that next project. And to me, I think maybe this kind of bigger, denser bodied one's the logical place to start. He maybe definitely doesn't feel like he really wants to be out here today, but as you look through that and kind of analyze, you better appreciate one that's packed full of red meat, has an awesome center body, awesome rib cage, just looks like he's ready to go on feed and start performing. The young lady who brings in the second calf is one that, you know, has a silhouette, has the up-headedness. You know, maybe I'd like to amplify that one at the ground, pry him apart in his pin set, and just reads a little bit more juvenile in his muscle pattern to maybe win this class today. But a nice pair of steers to start off the feeder steer show.
In our first class of feeder steers, first place went to Jacob DeBerg, and second, Ryden Claveringa. That's right. Give those kids a round of applause, man. They are hot. Them cows are hot. Entering the ring now will be our second class of feeder steers, with entries from Cullen Metzger, Reese Rosenbaum, Isaac Schmidt, and Reed Baker. We will have one more class of feeder steers, so this will be our first call for the third class of feeder steers. After the choosing of the champions feeder steers, we will take a short break for pictures with the champions and the judge. And then we will go into our breeding heifer show.
Well, once again, a nice diverse set of feeder steers here in Class 2, and all four of these young men are doing one heck of a job on a hot, miserable day to show cows, and they're making these steers work just as good as they can. The young man who leads off, has one that hits you extremely hard from the side, no chest floor, has that awesome show ring look and presence, and when he gets them parked, that calf does a lot of really good things in terms of design and proportions, and as you step in behind him, he's a little overwhelming just in terms of the power and shape and turn he has for being at this stage of the game. Maybe one I'd caution the long-term feeding of, just in terms of not getting him overdone too soon, too fast, but under proper management, you got a heck of a nice calf right there. The young man who comes in second, brings the big performance. The calf's going to weigh a pile when he gets done, as you just kind of read into his cannon bone length and projecting that one down the road. Maybe gets just a tick rounder out of his hip and like to set that tail head down in there, but another one that I think closely resembles our first calf, just in terms of having some of those show ring extras while maintaining the functionality. And the last two calves that kind of round us out, our weight difference in this class, I would speculate, is a little bit all over the board, and that's all right. And these two young men have steers that, no doubt, the performance probably goes in their favor. Maybe just like to amplify their muscle shape. On the positive side, I think these two calves will feed awesome. They've got the center body and rib cage that they're going to do well on feed. Maybe just come in a nickel planer when you compare them to the two up front. But a very nice class of feeder steers. Let's give those young men a round of applause.
In our feeder steer class, first place went to Reese Rosenbaum, second Colin Metzger, third Isaac Schmidt, and fourth Reed Baker. Our last class of feeder steers will be entering the ring. The exhibitor is Charlie Rokusek.
A single entry, and I want to give this young man his time because he's doing one heck of a job getting this steer stuck today and looking sharp doing it too. Calf that has a functional skeleton, gets out and goes, obviously comes in significantly heavier than anything we've seen today, which is all right. The young man's got an extremely functional, feedable looking calf. Maybe we could square him up in his hip shape. He gets just a touch around, prime him apart in his pin set, especially at this elevated weight. We'd maybe just like to see a little bit more wolfiness coming in there, but a calf that's no doubt performing and doing his job for this young man.
Charlie Rokusek was our champion in this class of feeder steers. We will now be bringing in first and second places from our previous feeder steer classes and choosing our champion and reserve champion feeder steers. Just a reminder, after the choosing of these champions, we will be taking a break and having pictures with the judge, and then we will be starting our breeding heifer show.
Well, as we find ourselves in the feeder calf or feeder steer champion drive, I want to make a note. I'm not trying to be insensitive and roll through these things too fast, but in the nature of keeping these cattle rolling through here, just from the heat standpoint, we're gonna keep them moving today. And with that being said, I think we have a really logical place to kind of find our champion at, and that Class 2 steer. He's one that hits you hard. You appreciate him from all angles. An awesome place to find a grand champion feeder steer today. And once again, I talked about the diversity we find in these classes, and excluding the weight differences and the weight ranges. It just comes down to kind of what pieces and parts we like. And for me, the young man with the second place steer in Class 2 is going to be our reserve.
Exhibitors that were champions and reserve champions, we will be taking judge pictures. It will be on north end of the barn where the rabbits are right at this moment. Follow the judge. We'll take a quick break and get these pictures done, and then we're going to be starting with our breeding heifer show. Our first class will be our Angus breeding heifers. Attention on the fairgrounds. We are ready to start our breeding heifer show. Our first class into the ring will be our Angus breeding heifers. Our second class will be our Angus breeding heifers class 2. So if you have an Angus breeding heifer, please bring them to the south side of the show ring.
Well, as we get into this breeding heifer show, I hope the quality continues because this is one nice spot to start a breeding heifer show. An Angus heifer that I would describe her feet and legs as durable and correct. Big feet, flat feet, they hit the ground awesome. You know, I would venture to say this one gets pretty close to the definition of proportion and balance. What a way to start the breeding heifer show. Really nice single entry class.
Kiana Hazel was exhibiting our first Angus breeding heifer. Entering the ring next will be our second class of Angus breeding heifers, Katie Vandentop and Grayson Keenan.
You know, a very, very nice pair of March-born Angus heifers that, you know, I think the most notable difference between the two is probably just the freshness that our class winning heifer has maybe over the second place. You know, and as you kind of try to cut through that, I think maybe just for me, I appreciate the freshness, the youthfulness this first place heifer has. You know, they both check the boxes of structural correctness and the ability to get out and go. And after that, it just comes down to separating the minor difference of elevation and some of the show ring extras that we like to look for. And I just gravitate towards our first place heifer a little bit more in that regard. Now, I'm not going to take away from this second place heifer because I think she is extremely, extremely nice. You know, has an awesome brood cow look. Projecting that one down the road, I think she makes a beautiful cow out on grass. You know, as she gets to going, maybe just wants to track a nickel outside of herself from behind at times, but that's me getting really, really picky on a very, very nice set of Angus heifers.
In our second class of Angus breeding heifers, first place went to Grayson Keenan and Katie Vandentop was second. Entering the ring now will be our last class of Angus breeding heifers, exhibited by Kendra Skipper.
Well, maybe low on entries, but awfully nice on quality is how I'd summarize this set of Angus heifers that were paraded in front of us here. The single entry one, you know, I really appreciate the length of body and the natural performance that this January has going on, and one that, you know, I stated before on, I think, the feeder calf heifer, sometimes that length of body makes one look quite not as deep and full through their center third, but I think this one's very adequate, and I actually really appreciate her rib cage and the natural turn that she has. You know, as a young lady pulls her into motion, there's at times, and I don't know if maybe it's her hip or her hock, that maybe she doesn't really want to reach out and totally hit that stride, but I think stays plenty acceptable in that regard. A nice single entry Angus heifer.
Exhibiting our last class first place was Kendra Skipper. We will now be bringing our first and second place class winners into the ring for the choosing of the champion and reserve champion Angus breeding heifer.
wanted to take an extra second to study these. I think we're all fairly aware of the influence and the ability to affect a single industry that the Angus breed has that potential to do in the beef world. And we're pretty fortunate to have 4 heifers out here in this Grand Drive that I think are awesome representations. And let's give these exhibitors a big round of a hand. The 2 heifers out of the first 2 classes were 2 that hit me extremely hard, and I think they complement each other. Again, I'd say the heifer that comes out of the second class is one that, you know, just her freshness and elevation to her neck set and that look she gives you from the side while still not totally being devoid of substance and some true genuine some true genuine width and an awesome rib cage for one. You know, maybe she's not as hairy and as appealing to the eye just in terms of hair coat right now, but I think we all better really appreciate that one. With that being said, the young lady that brought us this Mayborn in Class 1 hit me as hard as anything. I think that one is awfully good and darn sure deserves to be the champion Angus heifer today. And with that being a single entry class, no second to come in, I'm going to go right ahead and keep this heifer from Class 2 as your reserve Angus.
Our champion Angus breeding heifer was exhibited by Kiana Hazel, our reserve Grayson Coonan. We will now be starting on our Kiania breeding heifers. Our first class entering the ring as soon as these other ones have exited. Entering the ring with our Kiania breeding heifers, Allison Wallace, Kelsey Ullman, and Lindsay Bonine. There is only one class of our key breeding heifers, so this will be our choosing of the champion and reserve champion key breeding heifers. Our next class will be our Lim-Flex breeding heifer. Our next class will be Class 5 Lim-Flex breeding heifer.
as this being the lone class of key heifers here today, it turns into our grand drive in a hurry. And we find 3 heifers that I'd honestly really like to combine a couple pieces here to really make the easy one to start the class with, but that being impossible, we start picking these things apart and we start comparing them. The young lady who lands third, you just land in a really tough class. You've got a heifer that has the performance, functional set of feet and legs. I have no doubt she's going to go home and go to work for you and be a productive cow in the future. Now the 2 heifers we got left out here, I'm just going to compare some things here that I like and maybe some areas I change. The white-footed heifer here is one that I've always and always will be a stickler on foot and foot quality, and that one's depth of heel, that one's toe spread, just putting it down on a big square foot is something I truly, truly appreciate, and maybe that's where I'd like to maybe fix this black heifer, just amplify her depth of heel and maybe shorten those toes up just a nickel, and that leads me into comparing maybe the center body and the rib cages on these. I really, really wish we could just amplify this white-legged calf, maybe make her touch around her body. She gets just a nickel flat there behind her forerib and rib cage in general. And to me, that's where this black heifer truly excels. And then we just come down to overall punch, and I feel comfortable talking about that, especially as we get into these continental, like the keys in particular. They need to have a little power. They need to have a little oomph going for them. And since we have structure correct, and maybe there's a few things we'd like to change about both of them. For me, I'm going to go ahead and use the young lady's black heifer as champion and the white-legged calf as reserve. Give those exhibitors a big round of applause.
In our key breeding heifer class, first place went to Allison Wallace. She will also be the champion of that class, and reserve champion in second place went to Kelsey Ullman, and our third place is Lindsay Bonine. Entering the next ring, into the ring will be our Lim-Flex breeding heifer. There is only one in this breed. It will be exhibited by McKenna Claveringa.
You know, these single entry classes can sometimes be a challenge of what to say and how much to say, but it's awfully nice when they come in with quality and a look and present like this Lim-Flex does here today. You know, single entry, but this Limmy deal has really exploded here in the last 5 years, and what they're doing with these cattle is truly, truly impressive, and this heifer is a good example of just the look and balance that they're starting to make with these Lim-Flex heifers. That being said, maybe we'd like to just fix her a little bit there behind her shoulder blade, maybe have her tie and connect in there just a nickel smoother, but one that you like her structure, you like her looseness. She can get out and reach and flex awesome out of both ends, and a very nice single entry.
Exhibiting our Lim-Flex breeding heifer was McKenna Claveringa. She will also be our champion Lim-Flex breeding heifer. Next, entering the ring will be our 6th class of breeding heifers, our high percent Main and Jew breeding heifer, exhibited by Carly Seabrandt. This is a single entry class. Our next class entering the ring will be our Main-Angus breeding heifer, class 7.
And the high quality single entry classes keep coming at us, folks. A high main with impeccable look, has the extra oomph and the extra stoutness that I like to see in my Main and Jew cattle, and just impeccable in terms of her underline and proportion. I'll talk to that till I'm blue in the face, because when you see it in front of you this good, and you know first-handedly how hard it is to make one with that kind of look, and how to feed one and keep one right, we all better appreciate her. It's just truly awesome to see one that have that kind of stoutness of feature, that amount of foot, that amount of bone, and then she gets out and just uses it flawlessly. Talk about an awesome single entry high main to be the grand champion main heifer.
Exhibiting our high percentage Main and Jew breeding heifer is Carly Seabrandt. Entering the ring next will be our Main-Angus breeding heifer, exhibited by Ben Peters. This is a single entry class, so we will be choosing our champion Main-Angus breeding heifer also. Our next class will be our maintainer breeding heifer.
As we find ourselves in another single entry class, this Main-Angus deal and Main-Angus breed is something that I think is one of the best things the Maine Association has done, bringing that into fruition and developing that the way that they have. Hats off to them. It's been a great outlet for Maine and Jew breeders in general. And this young man brings us the big, stout power cow, no doubt. High end on the performing side of things, has a ton of punch packed in there. You know, maybe needs to be just relaxed in terms of her hock joint, and maybe the flex and looseness to her pastern, and maybe knocked her back just a nickel in terms of the angle to her shoulder. But no doubt a functional, very brood cow oriented Main-Angus to round out this division.
Exhibiting our Main-Angus breeding heifer was Ben Peters. Entering the ring now is our first class of maintainer breeding heifers. We have 2 classes of maintainers. Exhibiting in our first class is Leah Shoot.
what Maddox has to show Bo in the dog
You know, as we get into the maintainer division, we find one that has some very, very, I would say, exotic pieces just in terms of the lankness and having that skinny neck that ties super, super high, and it'll make you look twice, along with that very, very cool brocal face. And one that, you know, I'll preach, I want these females with a little more substance and a little more power. I probably should get ostracized for the amount of power terms I use in a show heifer ring, but it is who I am. And while I say that, we got to make sure it comes in the right kind of power. And while no doubt she has a ton of muscle, maybe just we'd like to refine that a little bit. Maybe change some things just in terms of sharpness to her hock and how she wants to utilize that. But a heifer that has some really cool pieces and should be a very fun breeding piece for this young lady down the road.
Our first place winner in Class 8, the first class of maintainer breeding heifers, was exhibited by Leah Scoot. Entering the ring next will be our second class of maintainer breeding heifers. We have 4 entries in this class: Katie Vanden Top, Mason Rosaboom, Taylin Hazel, and Charlie Rokusek.
Boy, it gets close out here, and as you study these two heifers, the differences and the things I'd like to change here and there, I did go back and forth in my head more than once. The heifer we're going to use to win the class is one that has awesome presence, has an awesome set of feet on her. There's times when you set that one into motion, she maybe gets just a little insecure on how she wants to set down on that left hind. And maybe one that, you know, I know it's a struggle on these breds this time of year, keeping them fresh and keeping them lean, and that's one that maybe could stand to be leaned up just a nickel, but I don't think it's to the extent to be of a serious detriment right now. The heifer that falls is one that I actually think probably has advantage in terms of being the big, bold future cow that has a tremendous amount of substance and power to her. For me, she maybe gets just a little awkward with how she wants to handle her hawk, and at times gets just a little sharp, but one that really nice second place animal. Young lady, I appreciate a lot about this heifer. She's one that I really like her joints. I really like the length, the performance. She's going to be a big cow when she's done, and that's okay, especially in this part of the country. You know, maybe just gets a nickel planer about her skull, head shape, and down through her chest floor, and we'd like to tidy that up just a nickel, and lands in a really tough class. And yet the young man with the lone March heifer in a class of Februaries, you know, she's one that stoutness of feature comes to mind when you look at her. You know, has some visual appeal and some extension in front of her shoulder, but once again, you know, maybe just needs to be dropped down in that flank and softened up in her heart, and maybe tone that tail head down just a nickel, but one that has the functionality for this young man to take her home and make her cow.
In our second class of maintainer breeding heifers, first place went to Mason Rosabaum, second, Taylin Hazel, third, Katie Vandentop, and fourth, Charlie Rokusek. We will now be bringing in our first and second place maintainer breeding heifers for the choosing of the champion and reserve champion maintainer breeding heifer. After the choosing of the maintainer breeding heifer, we will need the Foundation Red Angus breeding heifers. Our Foundation Red Angus breeding heifer.
Let's give the maintainer heifers exhibitors a big round of applause. The young lady is doing a nice job here with her brockle face heifer, and we very much appreciate her bringing her out. But I think the real contest was in that second place, and I'm going to go ahead and keep those two together for grand and reserve maintainer heifers.
Our champion maintaining breeding heifer was exhibited by Mason Rosabaum, and our reserve, Taylin Hazel. Entering the ring now will be Class 10, our Foundation Red Angus breeding heifer. This is a single entry class. Taylor Larson is exhibiting the Red Angus breeding heifer.
Well, our lone Foundation Red Angus entry here is one that comes in and you know, the first thing that comes to mind is functionality and covering all the bases that we're looking for in a future mama cow. Ultra feminine about her head, but still has some capacity, still has some substance to her from there back. You know, maybe just like to loosen her up a little bit and maybe pretty up just the way she wants to use those rear two, but a nice place to round out the Foundation Red Angus show.
Exhibiting our champion Foundation Red Angus was Taylor Larson. Taylor will return to the ring with the first class of our percentage Simmental breeding heifer, our class 11. We have 2 classes in our percentage Simmental breeding heifers. 3 classes.
Once again, find ourselves in a single entry class in the Foundation Simmental show. But, you know, one that I darn sure appreciate, her being a September, a fall-born heifer out here. You got to love the maturity and the density of her center body that she's got for just being a September. You know, awesome stout skulled, but still has some length and extension in front of her shoulder there. And you know, maybe it's because she's fighting the halter, maybe she is just this way, but just like to loosen her up a little bit in her spine and let her get out and go with a touch more freedom, but a very nice single entry Foundation Simmental.
Exhibiting our first class of percentage Simmental breeding heifer was Taylor Larson. Entering the ring next will be our second class of this percentage Simmental breeding heifers. We have 2 in this class, exhibited by Dylan Peters and Dawson Coonan.
Well, an interesting pair of foundation Simmental heifers here that, you just talk through the differences and you kind of study the trade-offs. And I kind of led off with this baldy heifer that, I think extremely fresh in her type and kind, has some of that maternal swoop and underline that's what we're looking for, and one that has some of the extra qualities too, just in terms of extension in front of her blade and having all the power and shape we like to see at these Simmentals. The young lady's red heifer is one that probably has advantage in terms of stoutness of feature, but maybe just gets a little plainer about her neck and throat. One thing we probably don't talk about enough is the udder development and the teat shape on this red heifer is starting to become defined, and I'd venture to say that both of these things are going to go home and make tremendous cows for these two exhibitors.
First place in this percentage Simmental breeding heifer went to Dawson Coonan. Second, Dylan Peters. Entering the ring next will be our third class of percentage Simmental breeding heifers, exhibited by Logan Basma, McKenna Claveringa, and Anna Bonine.
in the third class of foundation Simmentals, we find a fairly logical place to start in my mind, one that I really appreciate. This one's front third is just about as nice as you can draw one in terms of the angulation to her shoulder and knee, and as she shows it when she gets out and really grabs that real estate when you set her in motion. You know, maybe one that for my taste gets a little too ultra feminine just in terms of her muscle pattern and body shape, but no doubt there's some next level breeding pieces and sheer quality to that animal. Young lady, you bring in one that there's no doubt in my mind the function and the productivity there is all in check. Maybe just gets a little plainer about the design to her hind leg, and maybe just doesn't come out of that shoulder quite as nice and neat as a heifer in front of her. And this young man down here just straight battling with this baldy heifer is doing one heck of a job, and he's doing a great job getting her shown. I think he's probably one of the best guys in here about getting feed to this heifer, because she's showing that she's been getting a little extra loving at home. And no doubt that this is the big power, the big robust rib cage female in the class. But for me, we got to have the foundation and the feet and leg magnification to match that, and that's where she just needs corrected in terms of her lower joint work, foot size, and bone work to match all the power that she has up high.
In our third class of percentage Simmental breeding heifers, first place went to McKenna Claveringa, second Anna Bonine, and third Logan Basma. We will now be bringing in our first and second place winners of the last three classes and choosing our champion and reserve champion percentage Simmental breeding heifer.
Once again, let's give these exhibitors a big round of applause in the foundation drive. You know, as we get these class winners out here and study them and start breaking them down, you know, first and foremost on these females, we got to keep structure intact, and if we can't do that, you know, everything else kind of becomes secondary, because these things, a beef cow, especially in my part of the country, makes her living by walking a long ways up and down hills to and from water, and they better be able to do it comfortably. They don't last very long in the hills. With that being said, you know, there's trade-offs through here. We have a variety of ages, a variety of types and kinds, but as I led off with keeping structure in the forefront of my mind, I stated in class this heifer may not be the big punchy one, but for me, her general build and general structural quality makes her an easy spot to find your grand foundation Simmental. And with that being said, I think leading with the same kind of trajectory of keeping skeleton and structure and flexibility in mind, I think the young lady's second place heifer in class 3 is gonna be an easy reserve.
Exhibiting our champion percentage Simmental breeding heifer was McKenna Claveringa, and our reserve Anna Bonine. We will now be having our purebred Simmental breeding heifers entering the ring. We have 4 classes in our Purebred Simmental breeding heifers. Entering the ring first will be McCoy Moss.
Single entry class with a showman that has a badass shirt and a really nice heifer. This red Simmental is one that, you know, these purebreds, they got to have some punch, they got to have some power. They're continental cattle, and this heifer does that. Ultra robust, ultra round rib cage, you know, proportions up and fits together just as nice as you maybe expect one to, with that kind of punch and raw power, and gets out and goes with minimal issues. It's a very nice spot to start the purebred show.
Exhibiting in our first class of Purebred Simmentals, McCoy Moss received first place. In our second class, entering the ring will be Reagan Tiedemann and Izzy Stanek.
Build, but you know, maybe gets just a touch open in her shoulder. Like to just soften her up, make her just a touch more maternal in terms of her center. Let's give these Purebred Simmental show heifer exhibitors a big round of applause. You know, I know there's some junior nationals going on right now that may be detracted from our Simmental show today, but I'm really, really happy with the lineup we have out here, and I think there's some cattle with some very, very high-end pieces and some things, no doubt, that we'd like to change, but I think it's a very, very nice representation of the breed. You know, the big decision in my mind comes between the heifer coming out of the second class and the heifer coming out of our final class of the day. And as I was studying, trying to cut through the maturity differences and trying to read through that and maybe project this one into the future and compare them, you know, it comes down to a few really, really small things. And for me, you know, I just think there's some extra pieces here in terms of underline and look that I think are so hard to make in the Simmental breed, and it's something that's been coming on strong for a lot of years. But this young lady out of Class 2 is going to be your grand champion Purebred Simmental. great long back, but maintains the proportions, maintains the pieces and look. Maybe needs adjusted just a little bit in the angulation to her hock and maybe how she uses it and reaches, but a power cow, a productive, high-performing cow that should go on and make this young man a very nice project.
First place in that class went to Emmett Basma. We will now be bringing in our first and second place winners from the previous classes. The first class was Isaac Schmidt. The second class, Kiana Hazel. And our third class was Emmett Basma. Our second place winners, our first class was Ryden Claveringa, second Camden Vengelder.
As we're nearing the end of this heifer show here today, let's give a final applause to the commercial heifer exhibitors here today. I think the commercial heifer drive was a very challenging and a very, very dynamic set of heifers that had so many differences, and if you wanted to do them different, I'm sure there was a class or two in there that had several different places if we pulled everybody ringside. With that being said, I think I found two out here that maybe make the best combination of traits, and these cattle, I probably walked them an extra lap more than I should have, and we're all getting tired and hot and a little crabby, I'm sure, but with that being said, I think the two heifers out front here are two of the highlights in this commercial heifer show. I talked about it before. Maybe we'd like to just fix this heifer in her heart girth and flank, and she does get just a touch round hipped, and some of that may be hair, some of that is her, and we'd like to change her there. And with that being said, I think just a combination animal, being three-dimensional, being so correct in her skeleton and build, set on top of four really, really good designed feet, is this heifer that's going to come out of our first class. As we pull that second place from Class 1 in, we got two really good showmen that make it tough and do a really nice job with these two heifers. There's no doubt there's some very distinct differences. We got the big power cow and we got the exotic, cool-looking one. And for me, I think I'm going to keep those heifers out of the first class together, and you're going to be our reserve.
Our champion commercial breeding heifer was exhibited by Isaac Schmidt, and our reserve, Ryden Claveringa. We will now be bringing in our champions of our breeding heifers, and they will be coming into the ring. Our first class winner was the Angus breeding heifer exhibited by Kiana Hazel. In our key class is being exhibited by Allison Wallace. The Lim-Flex breeding heifer is being exhibited by McKenna Claveringa.
Full-bodied square rib cage opens up with a ton of power and maintains at the whole top side of her skeleton, and you know, gets out and goes with absolutely enough function. As we get to this last pair of heifers, there's trade-offs. There's some things that I'd like to change about both of them, so we're going to let it boil down to market readiness, some market cutability factors, and I think that the top side shape and the overall added red meat that this smoke heifer has just allows her to be second today over the black and white heifer that I think is an advantage just in terms of structure and some of her angulation, but probably just gets a little outhorsed here today to stand any higher.
In our second class of market heifers, first place went to Carly Seabrandt, second, Carter Hoyer, and third, Wyatt Peters. Entering the ring now, we have a single entry exhibited by Camden Van Gelder. Attention on the fairgrounds, we will be choosing our champion market heifer and going right into the steer show. Our first class will be the key steer. Our Kianana steer class 1. And Main-Angus steer, please have your steer on the south end of the show ring.
So we round out the market heifer show with a single entry. We got the big-ended, high-performing market heifer that has done extremely well for this young lady. You know, maybe some would consider her a bit of a tweener just in terms of where does she lie and how you want to exhibit this one. For me, I think she's got more than enough adequate muscle. You know, hats off to this young lady finding one that has grown and had some natural performance. You know, maybe when you set her in motion and we start analyzing some of the show ring characteristics, we'd like to just free her up and loosen up the rear third of her skeleton, but another nice way to round off the market heifer show.
Exhibiting our champion in the third class was Camden Van Gelder. We will now be taking our first and second class winners and choosing our champion and reserve champion market heifer.
Let's give these market heifer exhibitors a big round of applause, please. I've always had a real soft spot in my heart for the market heifer division. You know, I encourage everyone anyone who thinks they're really, really good at feeding a fast steer for a show ring, I encourage you to try feeding a show heifer or a market heifer for a show ring, because it's a different world. You're dealing with different metabolic rates. You're dealing with different maturity patterns, and you talk about a learning curve and something that's extremely important to the industry and relevant. I've always appreciated this aspect of the market show, and with that being said, as we get into evaluating these market animals, it's always going to be fundamentals first, and then we get to dive into the stuff that makes it fun to breed these things, makes it fun to raise these things. And for me, I think we've covered our basis on the top end of these classes with finding them that have the muscle, have the finish, that they've been on feed long enough and fed good enough. So then we get to start diving into the extras, the look, the extension, the necktie, and the stuff that maybe doesn't really tune into the commercial world, but we're not in the commercial world, we're showing market animals in Iowa. So with that being said, this young lady here is going to be your champion market heifer. You know, I think the reserve market heifer kind of comes down to the two smoke heifers up front, not to take away from the rest of the animals out here, but you start comparing back shapes, handling edges, and kind of diving into that stuff. You know, I think this leadoff heifer's just got a slight advantage in terms of top side value-added muscle where it counts. She's going to be your reserve.
Exhibiting our champion market heifer was Carly Seabrandt and our reserve Aubrey Wallace.
You
Our next class in the ring will be our Kiania steer class. We have 2 entries, Barrett Butzer and Taylor Halverson. For those of you who are interested in buying a shirt, we have a table full of shirts over here. They are $10 a piece to support our FFA Club in Sioux Center.
As we get into the key division, I think our lone key division, this was our champion drive. This young lady brings us a 1,395-pound steer out here today, and he's all man. He's square, he's big-ended, awesome, just in terms of feet and legs. And in the market standpoint, the fundamentals are checked. All right, let's dive into the look. He bounces upright, he moves, he gets out and goes, he's square, big hip. Maybe gets just a little mature about his head and jowl, but hey, he's a fast steer, not a supermodel. It's a good way to start and end the key show with that one being grand. The young man who brings us the reserve in the division, this is a high cutability calf. Feedability and rib shape and rib cage is getting so important in these market steers, and this young man's got a very round-bodied, robust rib cage steer calf that anticipate, and you want to throw around your cutability terms. This is a good calf to do it. He's big-ended, big top, fed right, and ready to go.
In our key steer class, first place went to Taylor Halverson, second Barrett Butzer. Entering the ring now is a single entry Main-Angus steer exhibited by Leah Scoot.
as we get into the main steer class here, a lone entry, but you know, I think this young lady would agree this calf maybe could stand a few more days on feed, and maybe today's not his projected endpoint, and she's got plenty of time to get there. You know, a calf that has some exotic look to him, no doubt, stout featured, big bone, but maybe comes at the expense of being a little too extreme right now and juvenile in his rib cage, tighter flanked and hearted. You know, I think days on feed only helps this calf down the road.
Exhibiting our champion Main-Angus steer was the chute. We will now be having our Red Angus steer class come into the ring. We have two exhibitors, Macy Schuler and Trevor Reisberg. Trevor Reisberg, we need your Red Angus steer to the show ring, please. Trevor Reisberg, please bring your Red Angus steer to the show ring, please. Shorthorn Plus steer, you will be the next class up. Shorthorn Plus steer. Attention on the fairground, if you have a steer that needs to be shown, we'd appreciate having you on the south end of the show ring so we can keep the show moving as fast as possible. If you have a steer that needs to be shown yet, please bring it to the south end of the show ring so we can keep the show going. attention on the fairgrounds. If you have not shown your steer, please, and you are planning on showing a steer, please bring it to the south end of the show ring so we are ready to go with our next classes. We also ask exhibitors, if you have been out with your calves in the parking area, please clean up after yourselves. Our fair board has done an absolutely awesome job of putting this fairgrounds together for us. Let's clean up after ourselves.
As we get into this Red Angus division, you know, dynamic and class dynamic dictates a lot, and here we have two very different types of steers. We got one that I'd venture to say maybe got to market readiness and got some coverage and got a little bit high fat content maybe on the exhibitor a little earlier than she'd like to. I think you only weigh 1040 or low 10s, and you know, maybe that's not the ideal market weight or what the industry's kind of striving for right now, but at the end of the day, on the other end of the spectrum, we got a steer that, you know, probably needs a few more days on feed. So I think we gotta approach this with the marketing mentality of, all right, let's go after those value-added cuts, let's go after the premium grades, and recoup our value out of a calf like that in that respect. And this young man, he goes second, and I don't think there's too much of a difference in terms of top side shape and overall muscle. It just comes to the fact that maybe this calf, his best days are still in front of him, and just keep pouring the feed to that one at home. Nice class of Red Angus steers. Let's give all the exhibitors thus far a big round of applause.
Exhibiting our first place Red Angus steer was Macy Schuler. Our second, Trevor Reisberg. Entering the ring now will be our Shorthorn Plus steer. It's a single entry exhibited by McKenna Claveringa.
Once again, a lone entry, so we're going to expedite it. But the young lady brings us a big, fresh, market-ready one. And like I said, we're going to check the boxes and dig on all of his cool extras. He is big-topped, has a tremendous amount of foot and bone. You know, the foot and bone, I'll talk about it all day long. It's not a valuable trait in any industry other than the show steer industry, but when they got a bunch of it, it sure looks cool. And I like looking at big-legged show steers. So with that being said, extremely nice way to start and end the Shorthorn Plus Steer Show.
Exhibiting our champion Shorthorn Plus steer was McKenna Claveringa. Entering the ring now is our Simmental steer class, exhibited by Taylor Halverson.
as we battle on through these single entry classes. It's refreshing when they're coming in with some quality, and this is a darn good Simmental steer. I think you talk about one being bold in his rib cage, having a tremendous amount of just natural skeletal width, stoutness of feature. You know, what a representation for only being a single entry of a very high quality breed steer that this young lady's done a great job feeding, and look forward to seeing him back.
Exhibiting our Simmental steer champion was Taylor Halverson. Entering the ring now, we will have our first class of crossbred steers. Our first class has a single entry, Braley Claveringa.
As we tear into this crossbred drive, this young lady brings us a lighter weight crossbred steer, but you know, knowing your calf and knowing what weight you need to feed him to is half the battle, and she's got this one dialed in maybe at a lighter weight, but keeping him compositionally acceptable and correct just in terms of his white fat percentage. You know, a calf that more than adequate in muscle, more than adequate in terms of having a functional skeleton. You get off from him and you break him down, maybe gets just a touch coarse about his neck, and you'd like to suck that chest floor up in him, but a good fundamental fat steer in the making.
Exhibiting our first place in our first class of crossbred steers was Braley Claveringa. In our second class of crossbred steers, we have two exhibitors, Brody Hoyer and Ty Westoff.
as we start discussing the differences on these two steers, I think very, very similar in their type and kind, and I don't know that either one structurally or skeletally is just 100, but I think they're both acceptable, and from there we go into the muscle and the handle quality, and I think this young man's calf here just handles a touch fresher, touch firmer on his edges. You know, I'd like to just set him back in the angle to his shoulder, relax him in his knee, but I think that's a big-ended calf that maybe, when compared to the calf behind him, just has a little more elevation, look, extension, just some of those extras we keep talking about. Young man, you bring us a calf that's no doubt ready to go. You know, maybe just a nickel more relaxed on those hind two pasterns and the calf in front of him, but I think just maybe handles a little mellow, a little softer, more advanced in terms of condition than the calf that wins.
In our second class of crossbred steers, our first place went to Brody Hoyer and second Ty Westhoff. Entering the ring now will be our third class of crossbred steers, Merritt Moss and Hadley Rosenbaum.
Well, this is a nice duo of smoke steers out here, and the young lady brings us one that is an absolute outlier in terms of how he combines market readiness and show steer extras. You want to look at one with the big feet and the big legs, and still has a unparalleled look in terms of just extension and being up-fronted. You know, maybe just isn't perfect in the angle to his shoulder, but boy, you're going to get picky on one that you talk about staying balanced and staying good-looking and fresh to a heavy weight. Hats off to this family for keeping him together today, because I know how hard that can be, especially on these fat steers that get up there to heavy weights. That's a lot of heat being generated, and well done to them, because that calf has stayed together, stayed fresh, big-ended, good enough on the move today, and a really nice spot to start the class. Young man, you came up against a really good one, and what your steer gives up just a little bit in terms of foot and bone, and maybe a little bit of upheadedness and appeal from the side, he gains an advantage in terms of the lower turn and the lower spread to that rib cage, and that's something that I value more and more every day as I try to make these cattle and try to make these show steers just as good as we can. We got to start making a lot of rib cages in these things that mirror his, because that's what we're after. Like I said, maybe just gets a little out-woofed in terms of foot size and bone, and I'd like to just tidy him up. He gets just a touch open and a spread out in there in the point of his shoulder, but two awfully nice market steers, and let's give those exhibitors a big round of applause.
In our third class of crossbred steers, first place went to Hadley Rosabaum, second, Merritt Moss. In our last class of crossbred steers, it will be exhibited by Josie Rukusek. We will then be choosing our champion and reserve champion crossbred steers and going into our overall champion market animal after that. Attention on the fairgrounds, if you were a top 5 breeding heifer winner, you need to come to the announcer's stand and talk to these beautiful young ladies next to me to get your prize money. There are thank you cards to fill out, and then you will get your money.
I think if we want to talk about productive cattle, I think we better analyze this guy. He's 1590, and I'm not too sure if we had a pen full of them, we wouldn't be on the boat spending our money, because he is a feedable, productive kind. He stayed extremely acceptable in terms of his composition to heavy weight, and let me tell you what, that's a direction this industry is driven right now in terms of cattle feeding, is the big frames that can support the big heavy weights and make a little bit of money at the end of the day. So well done to this young lady for finding a highly productive calf that has all the check marks in terms of muscle and market readiness that we're after here today.
Exhibiting our last crossbred steer was Josie Rukusek. We will now be bringing in our first and second place crossbred steers and choosing our champion and reserve champion crossbred steer.
As we get into this champion crossbred steer drive, let's give these exhibitors another round of applause. Hats off to them for bringing these steers out today. I don't know if I could have been convinced, and I'm sure glad the exhibitors and families that decided to come out today did, because it's been a lot of fun. You know, numbers might have been down, but it's been fun sorting through the guys that came out and battled today. With that being said, you know, I think we found a class of steers in here that have the extras and the fundamentals covered and with a lot of ease. And I'm not going to make this any more suspenseful than it needs to be, because this young lady is going to be your grand crossbred. As this young man gets a second place calf pulled into contention. You know, I voiced concerns about his shoulder being a little open and this and that, and I'll still praise him to high heavens for that rib cage and feedability and lower turn. Boy, that's something this industry needs to really put in the forefront of their brain when we're making these things, and making it a priority again today is getting these cattle to feed better. And I can't preach that enough, and that makes it an easy decision to use you as reserve cross.
Exhibiting our champion crossbred steer was Hadley Rosabaum, and our reserve went to Merritt Moss. We will empty the ring, and we will be bringing in our first and second place class winners from the market division for choosing our overall champion market animal. When we are done choosing the overall market animal, if you want to take a picture, it will be on the north side of the, I'm going to call it the bunny barn. Otherwise, we will be working our way into our showmanship round. Our market animals, we start out with our market heifer, who was Carly Seabrandt. It's being shown right now by Ryden. And we worked our way through the keys, which was Taylor Halverson. And our Main-Angus steer was Leah Schut. Our red Angus was Macy Schuler. Our Shorthorn Plus was McKenna Claveringa. And our Simmental, Taylor Halverson. And our champion crossbred steer was Hadley Rosabaum.
Well, it looks like our market animals, we moved through this show a little faster, and they're holding together just a nickel better, so I might take this time to bend a few of your ears. You know, try to draw on something insightful, something that a guy can resonate with these kids and maybe have them walk away with something more than where they stood today in a show ring. And the only way I know how to do that is with personal experience. So I'll tell you, I grew up in a family with that was very equine oriented. Not a lot of people know that, and my good buddies that do never let me see the end of it. And that being said, both my parents showed performance quarter horses, reining working cow horse, and I decided at a very young age that the only thing I wanted to do with being a cowboy was the cow aspect of it. Well, let me tell you, that was a learning curve. In my first year, I was about knee-high to where I am now, and I decided I was exhibiting one of we'd always had commercial cattle, and I dove in and found I think she was a new design 1407 numbered Angus, and she was about the ugliest thing any of us has ever seen, and I'm not too proud to admit it. And I studied my Kirk Steelwalt clipping video where he draws on the chalk and highlights the high spots, and I went out there with a pair of clippers and went to hacking on her and did more bad than good. And my mother, who has clipped numerous show horses for show, thought that the long hair on my show heifer's ear was just too much and not out of place, because you don't do that on horses. So she went ahead and zoomed off the long ear hair. Well, we went to the county fair, and my mother was also a vet, and one of the local guys that still raises a few show steers over there came up to the local vet, and he looks her dead in the eye and he goes, "Christine, you know you need to pour these cattle. It looks like the lice have eaten all the hair off their ears." If you can't laugh at yourself, you can't laugh at anyone else, and I've been laughing at myself for a long time. But the takeaway from that is that gentleman that made my mom feel about this big took me under his wing and really introduced me to raising these things, and developed a passion, and my parents were fortunate enough to let me kind of develop it on my own and make a whole lot of mistakes that I thought, looking back, were pretty horrendous. But the lesson being, I talked last year at this drive about passion and not giving up on it and finding it. Well, this year I'm going to reiterate that. Don't give up on it, because I could have ended my career in the show cattle industry showing a slick-haired numbered Angus with absolutely zero show ring quality. But instead, I stayed with it for another 10, 12 years and luckily found a career and a place in this industry. So to all you kids, I don't care how hard it is, whether it's showing the cattle, breeding cattle, playing chess, playing trumpet, I don't care what it is. You find something you like, stay with it. Second advice, I'll never forget that guy that ended up helping me and introducing me to raising these things. And that being said, surround yourself with the people that can help you. Surround yourself with the people that support you. My mom and dad, I can't thank them enough either. They really kind of let me go at it, and to no fault of their own. They didn't really know what we were getting into, or the fact that I'd be where I am today with it. So with that being said, I'm going to go out here. I talk these cattle pretty quick and pretty efficiently, I think. You guys kind of all know where I stand. I'm going to pick you a top 5 and get these things out of here and cool down.
While John is picking out our top 5 market animals, I think we need to give him a round of applause for sweating with us. Exhibiting our champion market animal was Hadley Rosabone. Our reserve, Merritt Moss. Third, Taylor Halverson with their key. Fourth, Taylor Halverson with their sim. And fifth, Carly Seabrandt with their market heifer. We will now take a short break for those who want to get a picture with the judge, and we will be going into our showmanship. We will be starting with senior showmanship. Once again, if you are out in the parking lots and have been hopefully cleaning up after yourselves, we thank you very much. Our fair board has worked very, very hard to get this fair to look like a fair, and we'd like it to be as clean as it was when you started today. Like to scratch from doing showmanship, we ask that you please let us know. It would be totally understood if you did decide to scratch. We just would like to know. Attention on the fairground, we have junior showmanship in the ring. If you are doing senior showmanship, please bring your calf to the south end of the show ring. All showmanship participants, if you are not in the ring or on the south end of the ring, please come to the south end of the ring so you can be ready to come into the ring.
Well, as we get into showmanship, I'll cut you guys a break because you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for. Confidence, proper head carriage. I want a lot of intensity. This is a competition. I'm highly competitive, and I want it treated as thus. And, I like seeing kids with intensity. That's what fires me up. That's what keeps us going in this business of raising junior projects. So with that being said, I'm going to highlight a few that I want to see back. First being the young lady with the main steer, the young lady with the big 1,590-pound fat steer, and this young lady with the red heifer. Some of these things we're looking at working on today, I'm only asked 2 questions all day. I don't think this is Quiz Bowl. If you want to do that, go play Quiz Bowl. But I do need to be told, if you're showing a breeding heifer, I need to know her date of birth, and if you're showing a market animal, I need to know her weight. And if you don't know, tell me something close, and I won't know the difference, but that's neither here nor there. So with that being said, I'd like to see those young people back, and we'll keep rolling. You know, we get into the second set of junior showmanship, and I get it. These cattle are hot. Their heads are getting heavy. When I see the effort and when I see the stick-to-itiveness to keep after it, I'm going to reward it here today. You know, a couple things I saw. There's a couple times there's some young gentlemen and young ladies that were getting jammed into a corner, maybe getting a little hard for me to see the cattle, and don't be afraid to take a circle, and we're not trying to work these cattle any more than we need to, but just a little ring awareness and working on your fluidity and head carriage. I mean, that's those two simple things. I mean, how we carry show stick and where we have that head at when those cattle are traveling, and you'd be amazed about how much that can make or break a situation. I saw it today. I saw it several times where maybe different showmen and different things, I mean, gives you different looks, no doubt. So 3 I want to see back, starting at this young man, the young lady in the pink, the young lady in the blue. I'd like to see back for this junior deal.
Thank you.
Attention on the fairgrounds. We have the final drive for the junior showmanship in the ring. If you are doing senior showmanship, you should have your calf on the south end of the ring. If you are 8 and younger and want to do showmanship, we will have a class after the senior showmanships for the 8-year-old and under.
Let's give a big round of applause to these juniors for coming out and do this. I commend each and every one of you. I don't know that I would have had the ambition to come do showmanship on a day this hot, so hats off to all of you. The competition's deep out here for a bunch of young people that haven't been at this that long. Hats off. I like the effort. I like the intensity. I think we're in good hands moving forward here in Sioux County. That being said, it gets real close between two young ladies, and it's a young lady with the main steer and the young lady with this fall-born Simmental. I think they've been showing their butt off all day. I haven't gotten bad looks at either of those two pieces of livestock, and regardless of what the livestock is, they're showing it to the absolute best of their ability. So with that being said, I'm going to use the young lady with the main steer to win showmanship today in the junior show. And this young lady down here in the pink is going to be your reserve. Let's give them a big round of applause. I know our crowd's dwindling, but let's give our two senior showmen that had the guts to come out here and try it a big round of applause. This gets so close. This might be my hardest decision I've had to make all day because these two gals are straight sticking right now. I had them pull up here and I was analyzing. I think they both walked them into their stance back-to-back times. There was maybe just a couple spots where one transition from show stick to show halter was a little smoother here or vice versa. And it got so close, ladies. I think we could coin flip, and I think we'd probably, or pull everyone ringside, and we'd probably get a different scenario. But for me, I think I saw just a little more smoothness, and we're going to go ahead and use this young lady in the green. Well, as we round up here with Pee Wee Showman, we got Haven and Daryl, and Haven's just killing it with Daryl, super sticking. I've seen juniors, I've seen seniors that don't show as good as Haven does, so let's give her a big round of applause. I think there's a pretty hefty prize of gummy bears thanks to Mrs. Jen Jansen. So with that being said, Haven's going to walk away with the grand prize today. Thank you to show management, our wonderful photographer, our wonderful ringmen. Jeremy's been killing it. And my other one, we're yonder. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, show management, having me back. It's been a really, really fun day.